In today's video, you will learn how to turn 10 words into an essay. So students often wonder how to find material to discuss something short, something really short. And what we'll do is we'll read a very short poem, which is a haiku, and it's only 10 words. I'll show you how I go about writing about such a short work. This is just an example of how I do things, and there's a lot to learn from it for you. So let's see, this is our poem. It's very short, it's only 3 lines and only 10 words. It is by Basho, which is a Japanese poet, and translated by Robert Hass. So let's see, a caterpillar this deep in fall, still not a butterfly. Let's take a closer look at it. So again, a caterpillar this deep in fall, still not a butterfly. Very interesting, right? Only 10 words. How do I write an essay on a poem that is only 10 words long? So for me to write an essay about this poem, I need to break it into elements. Let's see, how do I do it? Now, the most natural way to do it with this poem is to simply divide it into these 3 lines, because they're already divided that way. Number 1, the caterpillar. The caterpillar is the subject of this poem. This poem is about a caterpillar. Next, this deep in fall. This seems to have something to do with time, okay? We're already in the fall, and it is still not a butterfly. It's not a butterfly yet, okay? So these are the 3 parts. So let me see. Number 1, I'm going to take caterpillar, the subject, and I'm going to try to divide it somehow into parts. You know, I'm all about division. You have to divide into parts in order to write about it. So let me see what I can do. And just a basic search about a caterpillar online on Google will show you that there are several stages for a caterpillar to become a butterfly. So number 1 is the caterpillar itself, it's the larva. Well, actually, the first stage is an egg, but since Basho, meaning the poet, begins to talk about the caterpillar, we're skipping the egg stage. So we're going straight to the stage of the larva, which is the caterpillar. Now, the next stage is a chrysalis. It is the middle metamorphosis stage. It is a stage in which actually this caterpillar is the most vulnerable because it is just kind of hanging off a tree or something, and it can be so easily picked up by a bird or a prey animal, or even by another insect. And finally, out of the chrysalis comes out a butterfly. Okay, so just by doing a search on what a caterpillar is and how it turns into a butterfly, I discovered something new. I discovered that there is something that is not present in the poem, which is a chrysalis. Very interesting. So this is part 1. Next, I'm going to go to part 2, right, kind of section 2 of this poem. And it's just line 2, this deep in fall. So apparently it looks like butterflies emerge early in the fall, at least according to the poet. So the poet is thinking, hey, the caterpillar, I see it deep in the fall, it should be a butterfly, it's not a butterfly. So apparently butterflies, according to the poet, emerge early in the fall. This one hasn't done that yet. And now I'm gonna go to part 3. The poet seems to be critical of something. He is unhappy with something. So what is he critical of? What is he unhappy about? Well, something should be, but it is not. Something is A, but it should be B. And he's unhappy with that. Very interesting, right? So this is a criticism of the caterpillar. It should now be a butterfly, but it is not. And this is the way I would be kind of brainstorming and thinking about it because I want to write an essay on it. Now, the most useful part for me has been this part, the part about the caterpillar. Why? Because I noticed something. I noticed that the poet pretty much skipped the middle stage of the larva turning into the butterfly, which is the chrysalis. He just kind of skipped it, which is very interesting. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and try to structure my essay and see how it would work. Now in section 1, I would put that the poet seems to be discontent. Now here I would just discuss the obvious. A should be B, but it is not. Just a simple kind of, not really a summary of the poem, but what it seems to be on the surface. The poet seems to be discontent. That's all. Next, in section 2, I'm going to talk about the metamorphosis of going from caterpillar into a butterfly. And I'm going to say it's a complex process. I'm going to discuss the process, emphasizing the middle phase, the chrysalis. I'm really going to emphasize it because it gives me a lot of room to talk about it. It's very interesting because, again, the chrysalis is this very vulnerable stage of transition from the caterpillar into the butterfly. And finally, I'm kind of going to conclude from that the poet is right It's true, yes, the caterpillar should be by now a butterfly, at least according to him, and he has a right maybe to be discontent, but he's overlooking something. Now, because the poet overlooks the middle stage, his view may be limited, right? And I'm going to go to my thesis. I'm simply going to say that Basho's view seems incomplete. Now, it's only my opinion, but it's a well-informed opinion because it came out of me thinking about it in the way that I just described. And if I would write a thesis statement, it would sound something like this. Now, Basho's poem is critical of belated maturity. That's right, he doesn't like it that the caterpillar is not a butterfly yet. So it's a stab at somebody who is immature. That's pretty much what he wants to say. However, his view of the maturation process may be limited. I'm not saying that it is limited because I don't want to really criticize the poet. He's a great poet and I don't want to be that critical because after all, he has a right to be discontent. But I'm going to say that it may be limited because the poet omits a critical maturation stage, the chrysalis. And who knows, maybe he doesn't want to talk about the chrysalis because this is a stage where adults should guide their children or their adolescents and help them become more mature. Okay, this might be a part of my argument that, hey, you know what, in order for the caterpillar to become a butterfly, it needs to undergo the chrysalis stage. And like, were you present during that stage? Did you help bring it about? See, that counts. So does the poet really have a right to be so critical if he never provided any kind of an explanation about the chrysalis and what is required of the outside environment to make sure that the caterpillar becomes the butterfly? Now, this may be a bit far-fetched. Now, this may be a little bit too much. However, I just wanted to show you that you can definitely turn 10 words, just a little short poem, into an essay, and you can go on actually forever, depending on how many ideas you can bring in here. So what are your takeaways from this all? Well, number one, in order to write about anything, break it down into parts and break down parts into further parts. Next, look something up. Look up an unfamiliar concept. It may hold the key to your argument. Like, for example, like the way I did, the caterpillar turning into a butterfly actually has another transitional step which is never mentioned in the poem, and that became kind of the cornerstone, became the basis for my argument about this poem. Get the facts and then build the preliminary structure. Get the facts. We got all the facts. We pretty much brainstormed everything we could, and then we started to build the structure of the essay. And out of everything you've done, out of that structure, out of that brainstorming, out of the analysis and the research, now you're ready to derive your thesis. I hope this is helpful, and I'll see you in a future video.